Welcome, everybody. We are here today with Katrina Bos, someone I met a few years ago and has brought about a profound impact on my life and how I see intimacy and masculinity, femininity, and a lot of things that when I first came upon her, and it was in a book. One of the books that she wrote is Tantric Intimacy, and when I first discovered that book, I was like, what is this? And I read it and I was so open to it. And we'll talk with her if she's open to it about that particular book, maybe later on in the fall. But today we're going to explore another book that she's written entitled The Divine Union of the Masculine and Feminine. We're doing this because we believe that it may enhance your relationship if you're in a relationship or you're looking to be in a relationship, to understand this fully in 2025. First, I want to welcome Katrina. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are very welcome, and we're honored to have you. And we're going to get right into the first question. And one of the main first points you make in your book, again, the divine union of the masculine and feminine. But the first main point that you make is that masculine and feminine they're not roles, they are energies. And I think the best thing we can do is to have you explain what you mean when you say that.
So if you were to imagine how two people could interact, right? One person might give something and the other person has to receive it. So if you were to imagine each one giving one a name, the one giving is the one is the masculine and the one receiving is the feminine. So this actually could be any gender. It could be a parent giving to a child. It could be someone giving a massage. It could be anything, one way or the other. Like, it doesn't really matter. But unfortunately, we get really caught up in the gender stereotypes, which on the one hand, there might be historically really good reason for it. So historically, there was a place for this, but that isn't today. And when we continue forward with these stereotypes that men do this and women do this, we're not in survival mode anymore. We're not on the farm anymore. And the truth is, historically, there wasn't great relationship between the people because you're just surviving. You're just trying to get the hay in. You're just trying to survive the children. You're just trying to, but today that isn't us. And we're actually seeking something more. We're seeking, what could intimacy be? What could love be? What could relationships be? This is where we have to transcend all those stereotypes and start to look at, how do two beings actually interact? And so when we use masculine, it's a whole host of energy of giving, supporting, strength, all that kind of thing. And the feminine isn't this weak, demure, sexy kind of thing. The feminine is also strong in an entirely different way. And when we understand that, that's when our relationships can become more. We're not just, what do you want to watch on TV tonight? It's actually an alive, amazing relationship.
Brief interruption to the interview where we draw your attention to the For Her tab on the timmedical.com website. And if you click on that, you can see a variety of products that we have available for ladies, whether it's a lubricant, a moisturizer, different massagers, but check that out. Click on them, see what they have to offer, and see if they might be of interest to you. And always want to remind you that any product that you order from timmedical.com that exceeds $75, the shipping is free. So just scroll down through there, get an idea of what we're offering on the site, and also why we're offering it. But check it out, timmedical.com. Click on the For Her tab. Now, when a man hears feminine energy, how does he embody that when necessary and without losing his masculinity?
So it's a great question. So imagine each one of us is, they have the yin yang symbol in Taoism. If you've ever seen the black and the white, this yin yang is sort of like our inner masculine and feminine. So every single one of us is masculine and feminine. If we take a man, but this applies to women as well, one dynamic is inspiration and manifestation. So if you imagine, inspiration is like receiving. You're listening, you're receiving an idea. So this is the feminine. Manifestation is taking that idea and going out and doing it. People who are real leaders in any industry, they don't come up with these ideas from spreadsheets. They come up with it with some weird idea that came to them in the shower or while they were stuck in traffic. That's the feminine. But if we don't actually listen to that strange, mysterious idea that came up, we don't have the breakthrough ideas. We don't have the things that we do. People go, how did you ever think to do that? And you're like, I don't know, because I actually didn't come to it through logic versus intuition. So this is where masculine and feminine is
Yeah.
this balance of all kinds of things. Like, imagine having the logic of Spock, but the intuition to also feel the room. Spock can make a lot of enemies unless he has another aspect, which is feminine, which is emotionally sensing what's going on in the room. Like, if you want to really make the sale or do whatever it is you want to do, you have to
Read
have
the room.
both.
So as a dad with 3 daughters growing up in their childhood, their preteen, their teenage years, and now as adult women, all 30 years in age and older, how do I know when I'm operating with feminine energy versus masculine energy? Like, what does that look like? It's not like I'm walking, holding their hand, and in this moment, I'm masculine because I'm protective, which I assume is masculine, right?
Mhm.
But then if they cry and I pick them up and nurture them and hold them, then I'm in the feminine. But it's sort of like a blurred line, not as easy to define.
No, it's a perfect example because if you're being protective, you're being masculine. And if you're holding them, you're being masculine. These are all actions. All masculine is action.
If they have a tear coming down their eye and I wipe it away, am I being masculine or feminine?
Masculine,
All
because you're
right.
acting upon them. The key to the feminine is that you even sensed something was wrong. For men to access their own feminine, it's so important because for a lot of men in our society, they were taught to, if you feel sad, push that away and use logic to reframe that so you don't feel sad anymore.
Yeah.
This was the teaching. This is completely oppressing our own feminine, assuming there's no value in it.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden you have daughters or sons, and maybe they're going through a hard time. If you have a healthy relationship with your own feminine, that you've had hard times, you've allowed yourself to be sad, it doesn't mean you're wishy-washy and weird and stuff. It just means you're like, you know what? I'm going through a difficult time and it's okay. Like, we don't have to fix this. And all of a sudden, your daughter is having a hard time. And if you are in touch with your feminine, you will respect where she's at and almost in your own heart say, what would help me? Do I want someone to fix me?
Yeah.
Do I want someone to tell me that I shouldn't feel like that? Not really. That's what drives men into solitude. So instead, because you respect your own feminine, you're actually going to respect their feminine and say, what can I do? They can say, you know what? I just need you to listen. And you're
Yeah.
like, awesome. Right. Whereas if you don't honor your own feminine, your daughter says, I'm just having you say, how's it going? And they're like, I'm having a hard day, really. And you're like, you know what? You just got to look at it differently. Here's what you got to do. And wham, they've completely disappeared.
I have never done that. I don't even know why you even bring that up. Because we fix. That's what we feel like our worth and value is based on our ability to see a situation, assess, diagnose, prescribe, fix. And you're saying sometimes the best thing to do is just, I'm here to listen, but I think that's key. And I would say on the other side, I have been in enough relationships with a female partner when I was like, I am struggling right now. I'm going to open myself up and be vulnerable to you and say, I'm having a hard time with this decision. And they tend to gravitate in that moment to the masculine. They too want to fix. Well, you should do this and all the things that you just mentioned. They prescribe a solution when what I wanted was to just be heard, and I want them to listen. I think
Well,
that's
listen, it's a beautiful example because everybody values the masculine. And that fixing thing, that's not masculine. Unless someone says, I really need help.
yeah.
My deck is falling apart. Can you help fix my deck? I know that you do physiotherapy. Can you come help me? And you're like, right on. This is what I want to do. That's into the feminine, right? But the problem is, in order for us to have any power at all, everyone believes they have to rise into that masculine. So men and women alike, so then all of a sudden, what does a relationship become? becomes like a tennis match or UFC fighting, or who knows what it becomes, but it becomes, I've got the answer. Like, how can we ever have union? How can we ever actually have this beautiful,
Yeah.
gentle, wonderful thing?
And I think that leads to another question that I have is that we are in a society that has sort of pushed us to separate those energies, the masculine and the feminine, and value one over the other. And I just heard what you said. The masculine comes together to sort of push against each other, and that creates unnecessary tension in the relationship. So my question is, if that's happening for a couple, and I'm assuming that it may at times, what can they do to start breaking down those stereotypes and their day-to-day exchanges with one another?
It's funny. I actually think that it comes down to both people being really uncomfortable with their feminine side. You know, like you were talking about the sadness, even when if a partner says to you, well, here's some answers. Somewhere inside, there is wisdom that says, I need to actually feel this right now. There's wisdom in this. It's almost like, you know, if we're stubborn enough in our masculine, and I'm super masculine, I love being feminine in relationship because I get to expand into my true feminine self, and then we really get to have an experience. But can I be masculine? 100%. I've owned all my businesses and I write books and I teach and I'm always in control. The reality is we have to actually feel what we're feeling instead of trying to fix the other person and be right. So all of a sudden, if something is happening to the other person, and let's say they snap back for some reason. You say something and they're just really short. Well, obviously I'm going to be like, don't talk to me like that. Suddenly you got this thing going on. But what if instead you're not heavily triggered and you kind of look at your partner and say, hey, what's going on? Nothing. I'm pretty sure something's going on. Like, you wouldn't do that. Not with anger, not having to be. But in that point, the person who's snapping back is actually in the feminine because they're actually in a chaotic state. They're in
Okay.
a dysregulated, chaotic state, which we all do. Maybe we are grieving the loss of someone and our emotions are so high, it's just like this wild thing. That's where if someone is, say, grieving, the other person's going to come into the healthy masculine and hold space for that and say, I'm here for you whenever you want to talk. I'm here for you no matter what, right? This person might just be going through all kinds of stuff, but the last thing you want to do is dive in.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do is just say, I honor your process. I mean, this is really like silly language, but so it's the same thing with this snapping back at each other in a relationship. That is actually a childlike response. As much as we want to think it's big and strong, it's actually this, I'm hurt, don't touch me. That's what it really is. And so if the other person has the presence of mind to say, I don't know why you're snapping, but if you want to talk, I'm here.
Yeah.
Don't try to fix it. You just walk away and understanding. And all of a sudden, the whole thing dissolves or diffuses. And then when they're ready, maybe they come and talk. And I'll tell you, like in my relationship, we came into it later in life, right? Like we've been together for 4 years. So coming into this so consciously, and we were married, had all the kids between us. We've got 7 kids. It's a big, lots of decades of marriage behind us. But coming into it now, suddenly if someone snaps for some reason, the other person's like, what's going on? And every single time we sit and talk about it, and inevitably it goes back to something in a childhood. In one of our it has nothing to do with the person in front of you. And you
Yeah.
kind of have this presence of mind to say, I love you and I know you're a good person. So whatever this is, we can sort out. But you really need that deep presence to be able to do that.
We have men who buy our products at Tim Medical. Most of them have either gone through a radical prostatectomy or they've had pelvic injury or they're just dealing with organic erectile dysfunction. And I know that affects not only the man, but it also affects the relationship that they're in. So if you were to take the masculine and the feminine and all of the energies that you talked about just now, and a man has got his device, he's trying to learn how to use it, how to bring it into the relationship, would you offer any suggestions for them?
So one of the things, again, it comes back to understanding the feminine, right? So I have a couple things to mention. Women have had to be come men. And we've kind of contracted in order to be strong. Even women, we want to have abs like a man, when it's like, it's not what we're designed for, but whatever. You know, what women deeply want, what I would, not all women, but let's just say this. I've never met a woman who didn't want this. Deep down, we actually want to relax. We know that that we will change when we relax. It's almost like a sponge that's been kept so tight, releasing into its full glory, you know? And it's almost like, imagine Earth as this hard crusted thing, and then expanding into that utopia of flora and fauna and sunshine and water and stuff. Like, that's how a woman's supposed to be. So in intimate relationships, the best thing a man can do is do whatever it takes, like, to release that. And you can do that through touch. So to imagine not being so penis centric, right? Because again, that's the whole, it's sort of the challenge that we weren't taught anything about lovemaking. This is one of the big shifts that happened when I first started discovering Tantra and exploring it, was because we aren't taught anything, we default to procreation. Right? It's like, oh, so I have a penis, you have a vagina, we're going to rub up against each other, insert things and explode, and then we're done. Success, right?
Yeah.
And maybe we get better at it, or maybe we include a few other parts. But those central units are so important. But this is just for procreation, and it is the tiniest part of orgasm, of joy, of anything. I once had a partner who really struggled with erectile dysfunction, like, for all kinds of reasons. And so we actually spent a lot of time fully clothed on the bed. And and he was very gentle, and we would just sort of caress each other's body, and we would just sort of kiss and there were times that I would be lying on top of him. It's kind of like teenagers, like we were in our 40s, and we would have full body orgasms. Fully clothed, no genitals, nothing included. Just this wonderful connection. And it's things like this that make you just sort of think, wait a minute, we've been sold a bad situation. Like, this is not true. So then all of a sudden what happens is, when you realize that this entire body is a singular nervous system, and if you lay on the bed with your partner and you simply caress her and not asking her to do anything back to you, this is the full polarity of masculine and feminine. The masculine simply gives and the feminine receives. And what happens is she starts to expand. And then all of a sudden, her system starts to wake up. And if it's been decades since this has happened, if it's ever happened to her, most women have never experienced this, but deep down they want to. They really want to. The last thing you want is to even think about the penis. Like, it's not a thing. So the crazy thing is, as this happens and she opens up, it isn't even reciprocity that she desires, like to do something back. But the love that she will be filled with, she'll just be like, get me that damn machine. Let me at it, because we got work to do here, because I'm so open right now. And it all becomes very light and joyful and very genuine. But everything starts with the masculine, because this is the prime mover. And if you set the stage and say, I want to have a few hours with you, in bubble time, in lovemaking. I don't even care if we're having sex. I just want to be with you. To hear that as a woman, that's just it. And then you just start just by literally loving her with hands and lips and your body. Everything will flow from there.
That was a good tangent.
It's one of my faves.
But I think what you did was you segued, down the road into the tantric intimacy, because again, that's so beautiful. But that's another one in the fall, that if you're open to that, to have that conversation. Let's come back to this in the time that we have left. One of the things you say in the book is the polarity creates intimacy and attraction, almost like magnets within a relationship. Can you talk for a moment about what that looks like, especially with the masculine and the feminine?
Totally. I remember someone once said to me that the goal of a long-term relationship is kind of like oatmeal. It's sort of warm and nourishing, and it's something you can depend on, and it, feels good in the morning kind of thing. But it can get boring, right? You kind of need to add something to it. So this is where the masculine and feminine comes in, that you aren't just roommates. You're not just friends with benefits. You actually are different. You have different roles. So, for example, my partner is super chivalrous. Like, I cannot carry groceries in without him grabbing all the bags. Like, he'll grab all the bags, and I'm just walking along, and he's just like, no, I'll take it all. This creates a little spark between us, just a little something. He doesn't have to. I'm more than happy to do it, but
Sure.
he's like, no. And now all of a sudden, there's this little dynamic between us. And if he walks by me and he just sort of grabs me around the waist and he kind of holds me, creates a little magnetism. Like, it's these tiny little things,
Yeah.
you know? And it's not that I can never do it to him, but there's something really powerful when the masculine merges with the feminine. When they do that, it's like I start to expand and the whole room becomes kind of sparkly, which may sound too woo, but
Mm-mm.
it's something really interesting. And when you just do these little things all the time, just to kind of whatever it is your partner loves to do, loves to have. Like for me, I love to have my hair brushed. It's just like it's just this, oh my God, like, and it just creates this dynamic as opposed to these two people living side by side. Now you're facing each other, but you're being different. Like each person almost has a different role. And this doesn't mean, it's really important that this doesn't mean that the men make the choices for the woman. It's not that old men are the head of the household and women follow. It isn't that. These are two equal beings honored to be in each other's presence. And as a woman, it isn't easy to surrender in a world where we've had to be strong.
Mhm.
So even for me to surrender to him, he looks at that like, wow, you're actually dropping your guard for me. It's a huge deal. And so it creates this wonderful aliveness between us all the time.
It's a gift that you give each other. I love that. A couple more questions for you. How can couples reframe those transitions that happen in life as opportunities rather than obstacles? It's going to happen, right? And you can either run from it or you can grab hold of it and say, how can this draw us closer together? What advice would you give there?
What if one of our biggest problems is that we've actually defined ourselves based on our work? Like, let's say it could be male or female, I mean, but we're talking to men, for example. So historically, men are very defined by their work. And that could even be defined as their masculine self. This is how I bring home the bacon. This is my status in the community. This is the whole thing. And so as soon as we retire, all of a sudden my masculine goes with it. Because up until this point, that was the whole thing. It wasn't actually the whole thing, but that's sort of what society's brought us to.
Sure.
Similarly for women, again, we're going to go super heteronormative here, but
I appreciate it.
for a lot of women, we've defined motherhood and things like that as being our feminine, which is actually extremely masculine, caring for children. But we've sort of defined ourselves, and as soon as that goes out, we're like, I don't even know who I am. I can say for me that when I went through puberty, I changed myself trying to get a boyfriend. I wanted to be attractive to men. And then I got married, and then I had to keep cutting away little parts of myself in order to be the perfect wife and the perfect mother and the perfect daughter-in-law and all these things. And so by the time we all hit our 50s, we have no idea who we are.
Yeah.
And we can, I mean, there's certainly menopause, there's certainly chemical things that happen in everybody. But what if this is an opportunity for this blank slate? And for the men to actually say, being masculine, again, masculine and feminine only live with each other. Like it's not, they're two opposites that complement each other. It's not that I'm walking around being masculine all day or I'm walking around being all feminine all day. That's not it. I'm walking around in perfect balance. But imagine you're like, wow, sometimes we dream of retirement so we can do whatever we want. But imagine it's like, okay, you know what? I have this love of my life, and I'm gonna woo the crap out of her. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
That's the masculine, and it's that simple. And all that energy inside will start to flow. And for the women, for them to actually relax and say, you know what? And you see it, but you see it in society, but it comes out really negatively. Like, I don't give a about what anyone thinks, and I'm going to do whatever I want. And but it comes out so negatively. Imagine it's just this utter freedom of, I get to be whoever I am. And the men get to really play in that masculine. Like, I just wonder if we'd even have this issue if we always cultivated these all the way through while we were working, while there were children, you know?
Yeah.
So I would say at this point, we get to start fresh without all the distractions.
And I think that leads to the last question for couples or individuals who are 50 years of age and older. I mean, just not a hard line, but just at that age. And they're sort of just, this may be an introduction to them to these concepts of the feminine, the masculine, and the polarity and the magnetism and all of those things. What would you say is one of the best ways they can just experiment with it and try to figure it out? They're sort of redefining who they are as a couple, who they are as not redefining who they are as an individual, but sort of exploring new ways to express and new ways to draw closer together. What advice would you offer?
Yeah, the first thing is just to like have a conversation about it, to sit down and say, I would love to explore this masculine feminine. I'm not 100% sure what it's all about. It makes me a little nervous. I'm a little uncomfortable. It's a whole new world, right? We don't always like learning new things in our 50s and beyond, but to actually sit there and say, like, I remember like when I would be dating before I wrote Divine Union of the Masculine and Feminine, I was only ever seeking a masculine partner. Like I had no interest in running the ship. Like I'm done. I've done that already. And so men would say to me, well, what do you mean? What do you mean by being in the masculine? Just tell me, like, give me a list. There's that lovely masculine logic, right?
Yes.
And I'd say, plan a dinner. Take me out to a restaurant that you know I'd love to go to. Plan an event. Do something. Like, bring me flowers. Like, it's not rocket science. Like, it's not difficult, but it's made to be very difficult. So you sit down and you have a conversation and you say, okay, so if I'm going to play in the masculine, you're going to play in the feminine, and you wanted me to take you out for dinner, what would a nice dinner look like? Like, have the conversation
Yeah.
because you might never have had the conversation before. You know that song, Pina Colada, the Pina Colada song? I
Yeah.
never knew you loved pina coladas. I never knew you loved walking on the beach. Like, to just have that conversation like newlyweds and say, okay, like, there's nothing better than having a nice list of great options
Yeah.
and then just do them and then plan time together and be teenagers again without all the issues and the struggles. And then just play with it and then keep revisiting it. Because the lovely thing is it's this perpetual expansion. We don't stay the same all the time. And I would just be so light about it. Like sincere, but not serious.
Yeah. The world is not on the line on this one. This is an opportunity to emerge and to grow. And I think as I wrap this up with you, one of the images that you brought to my attention in the Tantric Intimacy book was that in the masculine is to be the banks of the river that allow my female feminine partner and her femininity to have some freedom to flow and to be expressive and to be emotional and all those things. And in those moments, my job is to just provide some safety, to provide some solace and security, and then let her be who she is. And I think
Mm.
that's not compromising my manhood, right? And then at times, I might want to be the river. Gonna need a partner to let me just, you know, be expressive, be vulnerable, and not run the risk of having that used against me later just because I was being open and honest about a fear that I have, and that she might need in that moment to be masculine and provide that riverbank for me. Did I get that wrong or right and totally missed the mark on that book?
No, that's 100% right.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Well, I appreciate the time. Again, I think this is something we could talk about for hours, and you and I, frankly, have talked quite a long time in other moments about this, and I would like to invite you back.
That'd be
in the
awesome.
fall to talk about tantric intimacy. But for now, I just want to say thank you. If people want to find you directly, what is the best place they can find you?
The best place is my website, katrinabos.
Okay. Because
Yeah,
you're in Canada.
I'm in Canada.
And then the books, I'm going to put all of those in the description of this video on our YouTube channel so that everybody can see the link to your website. I've watched many of your videos and drew strength from those over the years, but also the books. I'll make sure that they have a link to those. Well worth reading if you want to pour yourself into this and understand it more. But Katrina, thank you for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been great.
You're very welcome.